The Democrats are still trying to present the narrative that somehow the Republicans are responsible for this government shutdown, even though the Democrats themselves have voted 14 times to keep the government shut down. Okay. But this simple fact, of course, escapes the panel over here on CNN, and Scott Jennings has to remind them about this fact over and over and over again. But before we get these clips, don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe on this video so we can break through the algorithms. Here we go.
Scott, if another president of any party, frankly, had hosted a massive Great Gatsby-themed party at his private club in the middle of a government shutdown that is poised to be the longest ever, while millions of Americans are worried about whether they're going to get food on the table this month.
Yeah, look, I don't know what the connection is between the president's schedule at Mar-a-Lago and the Democrats continuously voting to keep the government shut down in Washington, but I guess I'll indulge the framing. I mean, the bottom line is the Democrats have voted 13 times to keep the government closed. The Republicans, led by Donald Trump, have repeatedly called for the government to be open. If you want to fund SNAP, you can walk in there tonight and vote for the continuing resolution that they have decided not to vote for 13 times. You can try to pin it on Trump, but the bottom line is the Republicans have had a clean point of view here from the beginning, and it's the Democrats who have held the government hostage, including SNAP beneficiaries, for some reason, and that's why we are where we are.
But that sounds almost exactly like a let them eat cake moment, because, I mean, Trump is the president. He's not just a random bystander. He is in this very moment that Americans are worried about whether they're going to get their paychecks. I mean, they're not getting their paychecks. They're not getting their food stamps. Having this kind of moment, I mean, it seems to me that in another political era, and I don't care whether you're a Democrat or a Republican, most politicians would not have allowed the optics of what we saw this weekend.
Yeah, I mean, look, I voted against the CR because the CR wasn't going to take care of people's health insurance. Health care was going to go up. I didn't vote for the CR. Scott might remember Republicans didn't vote for the CR previously, the same CR in different years. In fact, Republicans removed a Speaker of the House. We forget about that because he put a CR on the floor. So,
but you did vote against the SNAP benefits, then you.
I did not vote against the SNAP.
If you had voted for the CR, would we have SNAP right now?
Scott, what I voted for was a CR that was going to see people in Florida have their health insurance go up almost 100%.
No,
I got
these are separate issues.
No, I got 25,000 people in my district that are going to lose their health insurance because this CR didn't have it.
And how many do you have going to lose their SNAP?
Okay. Well, first of all, let's talk about SNAP for a second. Why did the Republicans send $40 billion to Argentina? Where is that money, Scott? Why didn't that go to Americans? Why? That's America first.
It's a credit swap. That's America. Profit on
that's America first. We're sending money to Argentina rather than taking care of people's SNAP benefits. I would have loved to have been at Mar-a-Lago while the girls were in the martini glasses when they were trying to figure out what to do with the judge's order. You know, half the room was probably like, should we pay it? Should we not pay it? And then someone was like, oh, I have a great idea. Let the subjects only get half their rations. I mean, they're only going to give half the SNAP benefits to these people.
How many have the Democrats voted to give?
Scott, look at the polling.
Democrats have repeatedly voted to give zero of SNAP benefits. I'm sorry, this is not. This whole thing could have been averted if Democrats had done what they did in March, which is vote for Joe Biden's budget levels. They have refused to do it. A couple of Democrats in the Senate, like John Fetterman, have shown some courage and backbone. But the bottom line is this party is enthralled to the radical left. That's why they've changed their position from March until now. And that's why people are not getting their SNAP benefits. It's why federal law enforcement isn't being paid. It's why Trump's having to scramble to pay the military. This is a Democratic shutdown because of political fear.
The entire reason the government is not open right now is because Democrats refuse to be complicit in having millions of Americans, including 100,000 in Kentucky, your home state, if I'm remembering correctly, Scott, that rely on ACA that would see their premiums rise several
which you can deal with separately. It doesn't have to be. Those two things do not go together.
But the way that they're doing this right now, they're combining both.
Voting to support the budget still doesn't. If you keep it closed, doesn't fix the ACA. The ACA needs to be reformed. Healthcare needs to be reformed. This is a way bigger question.
You guys failed at that last time. The whole thing was repeal and replace. You had a trifecta. You tried this. You failed.
That's not true. They're still in the concept of a plan stage.
No, in terms of
they've been in the concept stage since 2000.
But David, you would admit that the ACA was a Democrat legislation, yes? And you would admit that the subsidies that we're talking about now were passed by Democrats, yes. And you would admit that the sunset provision in the subsidies, which comes up at the end of the year, was in place because of Democrats, yes. Now you want to make it a Republican problem. These are not the same issues. You could open the government today, and then you could negotiate with with Republicans about ACA. And by the way, my suspicion is, and you know this, There are probably, and I know there are some House Republicans that would love to negotiate on it, but under duress, under a hostage-taking situation, connecting disconnected issues, and now you're throwing SNAP onto it. You're throwing all the federal workers who aren't being paid onto it, all because of this fight that you wandered into because of your wing of the Democratic Party. You all led to this SNAP crisis. You all led to this crisis of the government being closed, and you don't know how to get out of it.
That is exactly it, right? The Democrats really have no way out of this scenario. After voting so many times to not open the government, right? What's the only off-ramp? To vote to open the government, because the Republicans, to their credit, have not caved to the Democrat demands of course, giving health care to illegal immigrants, restoring all the spending cuts done by DOJ, and of course now trying to somehow shoehorn in these extended subsidies. Okay, so none of this makes any sense. But let's go ahead and rewind back to the very beginning, where you have Abby Phillips saying, yeah, the party that Trump just had at Mar-a-Lago, this is really his let them eat cake scenario. No, how do you actually conflate this with the Democrats voting no on all of the CRs, as Scott Jennings points out, right? These two have nothing to do with each other. Donald Trump having his schedule for donors and fundraising, etc., has nothing to do with Democrats making one of the dumbest political decisions ever, one, by the way, that is backfiring in their faces. But then you have Jared Moskowitz over there saying, well, Donald Trump has billions of dollars to send to Argentina, and as Scott Jennings rightly points out, it's just a credit swap, right? All we did is buy a whole bunch of Argentinian pesos so we can stabilize their currency, because what you have down there is Javier Milei actually trying to help the country out of the funk it's been in for the past several decades, right? They had 200% inflation. And what does Milei do? He goes into power and he cuts that down to 30%, which honestly is still awful, but when compared to 200, that's a great improvement. So what has Donald Trump done? Oh, in order to help Milei out, in order to help out their economy, in order to stabilize their peso, oh, we're going to buy this much of your money. So guess what? We haven't lost that money unless, of course, the inflation continues to rise down there. But if it continues to fall, then we're still going to be good. But Jared Moskowitz is still going to keep talking about, oh, Donald Trump is deciding just to pay half of the SNAP benefits, even though he's come out and said there will be no SNAP benefit payments until the government is reopened, right? Donald Trump is going to appeal this decision by this federal judge to the Supreme Court, and most likely the Supreme Court is going to uphold it because these are supposed to be emergency funds in case of, actual disasters or war efforts and things like that. But Scott Jennings makes the hilarious point that, oh, Donald Trump could give half, but Democrats have given zero by simply voting to not reopen the government, right? This simple fact keeps escaping the grasp of the Democrats, right? They're trying to pin this on the Republicans when they are the ones who are repeatedly voting no. And they're voting no at the same spending levels that were present under Joe Biden. Something, by the way, I don't approve of. I think we got to cut that all the way down. But that's not really what this fight is about at this point. But then, of course, you have David Hogg and all of his infinite wisdom chiming in, saying, yeah, remember when Republicans failed to get rid of Obamacare the first time around? Yeah, that's because we had a whole bunch of rhinos who didn't have the backbone to recognize what was correct. However, as Scott Jennings rightly points out, whose issue is Obamacare right now, right? Who went ahead and sunsetted all those subsidies that people are supposedly really upset about? Who actually voted to put all those subsidies in the first place, right? And of course, who voted for Obamacare to even start it, right? It was not the Republicans. This is a Democrat issue. And of course, as I've said many times on this channel already, the fight over these subsidies just goes to prove how ineffectual and awful Obamacare actually is. And I'm glad the Democrats keep bringing this up over and over and over again, because I think this will go a long way to actually getting some reforms finally done. All right. Now, just a little sidebar about David Hogg. Okay. When the Democrats kicked him out, I actually thought, oh, maybe they're going to make a good effort to change, because he was gotten rid of because people were done with DEI. They were done with the wokeness, the transgender issues, etc. And David Hogg, of course, was a big champion for all of those things. So when the DNC got rid of him, I was like, all right, they might be making some changes. But now, of course, they've replaced wokeness with socialism, right? We just had all the clean sweeps in the elections yesterday, and guess what? Socialism, the radicalism, has taken over the Democrat Party. And that's another fight I think we're going to be poised to win, because all of these programs eventually collapsed. But that's a subject for another time. The main focus here is that, yes, the Democrats own this completely and entirely, and they have no way out unless they actually vote to reopen the government, which, of course, some people are actually rumoring is going to happen now that these elections are over. So thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to like, share, comment, subscribe, and say hi to your mom for me. Do you like t-shirts? Of course you do. And now you can support the channel by buying an Angry Teacher t-shirt designed by me, Angry Teacher. So if you like America, if you like freedom, if you like liberty, then go ahead and click the link in the description, where all designs, of course, are 100% mother approved. So enjoy yourself and find something you like today.